Rabindranath Tagore's Bengali poem Abhisara was translated into English under the name The Tryst, and from there comes the name Abhisara the Tryst. This is one of the most celebrated poems of Tagore and is based on the Jatak Katha, and it is about a courtesan, a young court dancer, and a Buddhist monk. It is a part of the collection titled Katha, written in between the Bengali year 1304 to 1306. It explores the themes of spiritual transcendence over materialism by contrasting the changing seasons, characters, settings, and circumstances. The poet masterfully uses symbolism to convey the profound emotions and themes of the poem. Nature, the lamp, the night, the lightning, the lady's attire, the tryst, and the journey all serve as potent symbols that enrich the narrative and provide a deeper understanding of the characters' experiences. The title The Tryst refers to the meeting or rendezvous that the sannyasi, the monk, the saint, the ascetic, whatever you call them, and it's between him and the court dancer Vasavadatta. The monk here referred to by the name Upagupta. They had planned to have a meeting. So on their first chanced meeting, Vasavadatta had invited him to her home for taking some rest, for taking some comfort, for taking shelter from the ravages of nature. But Upagupta had denied it, saying at the right time he shall be there with her. And therefore comes the second meeting, which is almost about a year after. And that's the meaning of tryst, that is a planned meeting. It is usually a planned meeting, a secret meeting between two lovers, but here the love is not the physical love. It's the love beyond, the deep spiritual connection that transcends all kinds of physical desire and attachment. And that is the spiritual truth, the philosophical truth, the love for humanity, and the show of compassion in the most direst of situations. So going line by line, Upagupta, the disciple of Buddha, lay asleep in the dust by the city wall of Mathura. So we come to know that the city is Mathura, which is being referred to. It's a city in Uttar Pradesh. And here Upagupta, the disciple, the Buddhist monk, he lays asleep in the dust by the city wall, by the rampart, by the boundary wall of the city, at the outskirts of the city. Lamps were all out, doors were all shut, and stars were all hidden by the murky sky of August. It was evening, descending into night, darkness, and therefore all the lamps, the oil lamps, were all out. They were extinguished. Light was not required, probably, and doors were all shut. Perhaps the people were about to sleep or were trying to protect themselves from the stormy night, and therefore everything was shut, quiet, and even the cloudy, dark clouds of August, the monsoon, had hidden all the stars under its black cover. Whose feet were those, tinkling with anklets, touching his breast of a sudden? So suddenly, Upagupta, lying on the street, felt the pressure of a foot on his chest, and with tinkling sound, the anklets were chiming. He woke up startled, and the light from a woman's lamp fell on his forgiving eyes. So he woke up startled, shocked, surprised that what happened? Why all of a sudden such a kind of thing did he experience? And the moment when he opened his eyes, he saw a beautiful woman was leaning down with her lamp, and therefore the light of the lamp fell on his face. It was Vasavadatta, the dancing girl, starred with jewels, clouded with a pale blue mantle, drunk with the wine of her youth. So Vasavadatta, the dancing girl and the dancer, and her beauty, her youth, and she was famous, of great renown, and she had dressed in the most expensive, priceless jewelry, that too in the darkness of the night. She sparkled and she gleamed. Now she lowered her lamp and saw the young face, austerely beautiful. So she lowered her lamp And then she saw the face of Upagupta. It was simple, unadorned, yet beautiful. "Forgive me, young ascetic," said the woman. "Graciously come to my house. The dusty earth is not a fit bed for you." Now, this comes to be ironical because the same dusty earth, which she says is not fit for one to sleep on, uncovered, unprotected, and open to the dangers and threats of nature, and she herself would be lying on the earth by the end of this poem, all by herself, all alone, abandoned, secluded. So she says, "Forgive me." She asks for mercy, and she says that she really apologizes for waking him up so abruptly, and perhaps she had not seen him. And she invites him respectfully, very respectfully and generously, to come to her home and take shelter instead. The young ascetic answered, "Woman, go on your way. When the time is ripe, I will come to you." So the young ascetic, he didn't bother, or he remained unaffected by the most beautiful look and the precious jewelry, whatever could entice a young man. Still, he remained aloof of all such materialistic things, and he simply shunned the woman away and said, "It's not the right time. Let the ripe time," R-I-P-E, ripe. So, let the most appropriate, most suitable time will come. Then they shall meet again. And that's the tryst. Suddenly, the black night showed its teeth in a flash of lightning. The storm growled from the corner of the sky, and the woman trembled in fear. So this can be said as an example of personification, where the night is described to show its teeth, to reveal its teeth, and where the storm is said to be growling like an angry, ferocious beast. And therefore, it's metaphorically implying that some imminent, impending danger is signified. Something ominous is about to happen, and the woman didn't know what. But she trembled, and in fear she ran away. She tried to save herself. A year had not yet passed. It was evening of a day in April, in the spring. So the season, the month, the season, the beauty, the nature's beauty that is specifically in detail described is very relevant, particularly because it acts as vivid symbols to project what was going on within the characters and what is yet to unfold. So it was spring, the happy merrymaking time. Everybody was busy. The branches of the wayside trees were full of blossom. Gay notes of a flute came floating in the warm spring air from afar. So just music, happy note, flowers everywhere. All these were everywhere. The citizens had gone to the woods for the festival of flowers. From the mid-sky gazed the full moon on the shadows of the silent town. So now a different picture of celebration and of beauty, of light, of color. So everything is happy and jocund and joyous all around. The citizens are all the citizens, the people of the town, the townsfolk, whatever you can call them. So the commoners had gone out and they were enjoying in the forest, out of the town, celebrating the season. And from the mid-sky gazed the full moon. A perfect full moon, fully illuminated, beautiful light, beautiful moonlit night. And then there was the silent town, because the townsfolk had gone out to enjoy themselves, and therefore the town was silent. Now, this silence can also be symbolic of what was being inflicted on Vasavadatta right now. And though it was wrong, it was brutal, it was inhuman, they were all silent to it. They did not pay any heed to it. They did not go for judgment that whether it was right or wrong. And what happened? Upagupta passed through the city gates and stood at the base of the rampart. So he was standing at the base of the boundary of the outskirts of the city, and therefore every town, every city, every place tried to protect itself, its inmates from probable dangers, invasions, wars, battles, and therefore such kind of barriers were always there. So those are called ramparts. Now, what woman lay at his feet in the shadow of the mango grove? So when he was walking now in the shadow of the mango grove, just near the city walls, he found, struck with the black pestilence, her body spotted with sores of smallpox, some woman, some lady, lying down there, spotted and inflicted with smallpox, with black pestilence. And it was such an epidemic disease that people had shunned out her from the city. She had been hurriedly driven away from the town to avoid her poisonous contagion. So, in fear of people catching it or being affected by it or it being widespread, they had banished this woman from the town hurriedly. As quickly as the news of her being sick had been spread, she was immediately thrown out of the town, outcast. She was totally cast away. And the ascetic sat by her, took her head on his knees. So he sat down, and on his lap he took the lady's head and moistened her lips with water and smeared her body with balm. So he gave some water, he put some water on her lips and moistened it, her dry, parched up lips, and therefore giving her some relief. He even applied some balm over her body to soothe her bruises, her wounds. "Who are you, merciful one?" asked the woman. "The time at last has come to visit you, and I am here, Vasavadatta," replied the young ascetic. So the woman was surprised that who is so merciful as to, when the whole world has thrown me out, who has come to take care of me right now? And when she inquires, he says that at last the right time, the most appropriate time has come. And this is the moment of humanity. This is the moment when one should show one's emotion of compassion, kindness, generosity, such kind of virtuous qualities to be exhibited when a person needs the most. And therefore that is the tried and tested time to judge a human. And he, being a spiritual person, a monk, none other than this could have served his purpose, because he was a selfless man. He didn't want anything back in return. So the woman in her youth with all her jewelry was worthless for him. But now when she needs help, he could prove himself worthy of service. And therefore monks, since they live by service towards humanity, service to God, and therefore he chose this time to be the most appropriate time for their meeting. So materialistic beauty, physical beauty, all are ephemeral, all are short-lived, all are transient. So when a woman's, when a man's, when anybody's purpose is complete, and they are of no more of any use to this materialistic selfish world, they are thrown away. But what remains with them and what shall remain with them is their spiritual self. So one should always try to enhance his spirituality and give more meaning to his spiritual self than to his material self. So just before 1 year, the lady was blessed with her natural beauty and vibrance of youth, and she was enjoying it and proud of it, such that she didn't feel like, or she didn't even deign to look down while walking. It symbolizes her pride, her arrogance in herself. But just within a year, when things change to sharp contrast, we can see the contrast between her past allure and her present condition, which is a potent reminder of the unpredictability and the harshness of nature of one's life. So she was ailing, lonely, abandoned, suffering from a severe disease. But Upagupta shows immense compassion and kindness and chooses to comfort and care for the sick Vasavadatta. The act of selflessness underscores the theme of unconditional love and humanity that transcends physical attractiveness or social status. Upagupta's actions reflect his profound understanding of the Buddha's teachings, especially the emphasis on compassion and treating all beings equally with kindness. So, the themes that the poem takes up can be said to be compassion, selflessness, beauty, and ugliness, spirituality, worldliness, the right time, the concept of right time, and love and duty. Whereas we can also find some figures of speech like metaphor, the black knight showing its teeth. Again, the storm growling can be considered as an example of personification. Imagery is everywhere where you can find the seasons being described with the lightning or with the flower laden branches. Symbolism lies when the right time is coming. Hyperbole is seen in the lines that the lovesick quails uttered from the mango branches their sleepless plaint, as if they were complaining. They were complaining of their sleeplessness, of their loneliness, of their longing for love. So it is symbolic of the representation of what Vasavadatta was experiencing at that time. And therefore, when Vasavadatta and Upagupta were there, when Upagupta was yet to meet her and Vasavadatta was abandoned by everybody, then the lovesick quails have been portrayed. Quails who sing so beautifully on the branches of the trees. They were affected with love. Now they are complaining of sleeplessness that shows the lack of love, the loneliness, the longing. Alliteration is found in the lines Festival of Flowers. She lowered her lamp, notes of a flute came floating. Then personification, the black knight showed its teeth. From the mid-sky gazed the full moon, as if the full moon was staring and gazing at everything underneath. Then transferred epithet or hyperlage. A transferred epithet is when an adjective usually used to describe a thing is placed with something different. For example, here it was said forgiving eyes, because the adjective forgiving is generally used to describe the mind or the person, but it is now used for the eyes instead. So therefore it's a transferred epithet. Then gay notes of a flute. Now the happy notes of a flute, it doesn't make sense, but when you listen to the notes of the flute being played, you feel happy. One feels happy. So therefore gay notes of a flute is an example of transferred epithet again. Then again we have sleepless plaint. Now sleepless wasn't the complaint that was being made, but sleepless were the quails complaining to each other, and that's why the plaint, when plaint is said to be sleepless, is an example of transferred epithet. And you must take a note of the symbols that are used, the light and darkness, how they contrast the situation, the monsoon and the spring. And the themes can be again spiritual love and wisdom, how they have been projected, human compassion, and the transitory nature of one's youth and beauty. The form of the poem, it is written in free verse with no particular rhyme scheme or metrical pattern followed, and third person narrative has been used. The language is very lucid and fluent, with vivid visual and auditory images being used while describing the season. So that's all. So hope you could understand the explanation quite well, and do leave a comment sharing your feedback or asking questions if any more queries lie.